Alright folks, it's time for a new proof of life video. If you watched the one prior to this, you may be wondering why there's a change in screens, and the reason is really pretty simple. This build is a PAL build, so it's got European video settings on it. So the Antic, the GTIA are both PAL versions of the chip, and the last one was NTSC. And if I do PAL video on NTSC monitors, it looks all jailbreaky and gray and doesn't look pretty at all. I mean, the DVI looks the same because it's beautiful DVI with the Sophia Revision C, and the RGB looks the same because it's going out through the VBXE, but the video is gray. So I've got it set up so that we can see all of it on a nice PAL monitor connected via a SCART lead. So we've got everything going on. So this is the 1088 build. It looks very beautiful. It has DVI through a Sophia Revision C. It's got the compact flash dual here, but it's built into the lid, so we leave these ports free for something else, whatever you might want to do. It's got the swap switch, which we'll get into in a little bit. There is an LED installed here, but no MIDI. The LEDs and the things are annoying to install, so I put this one in just because I happen to have one free, and maybe this customer will want a MIDI XEL sometime soon. Alright, so let's power this off, and we'll do the splash screen. Okay, and we've got the RGB port coming out over here. And since this says VBXE, let's get VBXE installed. Now, this is my compact flash cards, but like the ones I sell for customers, I've got them set up in a particular way. You may notice that I've got a FAT driver installed. I've also got the VBXE driver, and then I have Sparta Commander installed because it's just a nice, easy way to show off VBXE, and it's a good application. So, this is the latest version of Sparta DOS X. Let's show you the difference between source. So this is VBXE RGB via SCART. And then this is going to be your standard composite, and it's in color, since I've got a PAL monitor here. And this is S-Video. It's a little sharper, a little jittery. That's the monitor, not the output. And then this is just television, because it's also a TV. It's a nice little monitor. It's a Samsung SyncMaster 910MP. I got it used, and it's an easy way to get SCART. It's an easy way to get PAL video outputs, and I decided since I'm building PAL machines, I needed a PAL output. All right, so let's go into the BIOS. Again, as usual, F12 key is the most important key on your keyboard. Now, just to let you know, I've got this hooked up via PS2 connectors here. This is a wireless PS2 keyboard and a wireless PS2 mouse. It's a LabTech. It is this model right here. It's fairly easy to find if you buy it on Amazon. Just make sure they don't send you the Spanish USB version, because that version will not work. Doesn't matter if you speak Spanish or not, or read Spanish in this case. It just doesn't matter. The USB is not PS2 compliant. So I've got it hooked up to a KVM switch because I use this keyboard with testing, with my own 1088 XEL, and then the XEGS I use to test things out on. Let's go over the ports here. So you've got your joystick 1 and 2 ports, or 0 and 1, depending on what you want to call it. This is your SiO2 PC via a USB micro, and I've just got it hooked up to my Mac right here, and I'm running a program called Respeqt, R-E-S-P-E-Q-T, And they make it for Mac, Windows, and Linux. I don't run Linux. I run Mac primarily, but the Mac version is not updated as often as I would like. So I run Respect under Parallels emulation. You can see the parallels right there. And just have it hooked up via a USB. Real nice. Works nicely. We'll talk about it in a little second. This is your DVI port. It's hooked up to this monitor right here. Your standard composite video. This is S video. Both of those are connected to that monitor we saw. And then right there is a 3.5 millimeter micro mini phono jack, and that's for your stereo sound. Right? This is a disc squat button and its LED that we'll get into in a few minutes. These are your indicator lights. You've got stereo installed and it's active. This will flash intermittently depending on hard drive read and writes. V-Gate shrinks the screen like this so that you don't have overscan on LCD monitors. And then this is when the SIO port is being either data is transmitted or received from an external application. Right, so let's go to F12 and get into the BIOS. Now, as I've said many times before, John Halliday is made an incredible BIOS here for the 1088 XEL and for all Atari 8-bits, really. The Ultimate 1 megabyte is really an outstanding upgrade with FJC's Flash Jazz Cats BIOS in it, and every machine that we sell, whether it's an upgrade to a customer's standard XL or XE, or it's an XEL or an XLD, he gets paid a royalty on every install that we do. If you don't have it in your machine, you really should. It is outstanding. So, the BIOS, what does it do? Well, you have multiple memory configurations. To navigate this, you use the right and left arrow keys to change screens. You use the up and down arrow keys to change options. And then you use the enter key to change from stock 64K, a 320K Rambo, 576 Compy Shop, or the default that I leave it at, a 1 megabyte Rambo. You've got different OS ROMs here. You've got the XL standard. You can also do the 400, 800 OS. You could even do Altera. There's a number of different OSs if you want to flash. XEGS works well as well. But I leave it standard XLOS. The Atari Basic is the slot that Basic exists in, so if the machine's booted and it drops to the Basic ROM, it'll either drop to Atari Basic C, which is the most updated version of Basic. In fact, it was released on Cartridge towards the end of Atari's life. There was Atari Basic A, which floated around in a brown cartridge, the 400, 800 series. Basic B was installed in the XL machines and floated around in some cartridges. But C floated around in a few cartridges. In fact, you could send off to Atari to get a replacement if you wrote them and said you wanted Basic C. It fixes most of the known bugs, but not all of them. You can set Basic to be default. Again, you hold the option key down when you boot and it'll be disabled. You can permanently disable it. Just depends on what you want to do. XEGS ROM is disabled because this is not set for an XEGS. If you, for some reason, want a 1088 XEL that works like an XEGS, there is a jumper on the Ultimate 1 Meg that you would have to remove from the XEL and jumper and then put back in. I don't really see the need for that, but hey, knock yourself out. SPAR-DOS-X is the disk operating system for the machine. It's how you interact with floppies, the hard drive, or any external peripheral. This next thing, though, is really kind of cool. FJC has created a graphical operating system for the Atari 8-bit. It's just outstanding. I mention it every time that I get a chance because I really think it's something that I would love to see people write things for and for it to get developed further. This also allows me to show mouse functionality, so I'm going to enable it like this. It automatically disables SpartaDOS. Now I'm going to press B, that will save settings and boot. Look at that. Now, why did I show you this? So, if we go over here, this is the mouse select button. And there's a LED right here, and then there's a little tiny button right underneath. And if we press it once, it'll turn off. And if we press it again, it'll turn green. And then if we press it a third time, it'll go off. We want it red. The reason we want it red is because we're going to take this mouse and we're going to move this around. And that's because we told it via that mouse select switch that it should expect a mouse on port 2, which is the standard default for where graphical OS systems are going to look for mice on the Atari 8-bit. Like Diamond GOS, it's going to look for it on port 2. You can change that, but that's the easiest way to find it. This is nice. It doesn't have a lot of functionality, but it does have a couple of things. Like, let's look at Profiler. And it kind of tells you some, cool things. 35% CPU usage. Let's see if we can crank it up now. Oh, it's gone down now. It's only using a little bit of memory. But, he's made it so this works. Other things, if we can just get him some time and some resources, I think it'd be outstanding. Now, that's about all it does. It shows off mouse usage. It looks very nice. It doesn't look so nice in composite. It looks a little nicer in this video, but it really looks nice in RGB, and especially looks nice in DVI. Okay, so going to go back to F12. I'm going to go back to the BIOS. I'm going to disable this. Now, the other way I could have done it is enabling SpartaDOS, and that automatically disables the GOS. Okay, boot to loader. Might as well show you this as good a time as any. If you want to never boot to SpartaDOS for whatever reason, enable this, and then press B to save and reboot. And it's going to go into the loader. Now, the loader allows you to access the FAT partitions that you have on your compact flash drives. Now, the 4 gig one I have, you'll notice it has one FAT32 partition and then 2 FAT16 partitions that I can access through SpartaDOS. If I go here, this has a FAT32 and 2 FAT16 setups. Again, that's just my particular setup. You can do whatever you'd like. This untitled one here is the Atari partition table. So those are the drives that SpartaDOS can interact with. Now, with SpartaDOS, or with the loader here, we can go into different things, and we can load XEX files. We can load ATRs. In fact, I'm going to use this opportunity. I'm going to do a couple of things. First of all, I'm going to load an ATR. I'm just going to highlight it. I don't know why I like this game, but I've been playing this probably for 30 or 40 years. And it also allows me to show you that the joystick's working. Oh. So I got, no. Oh, man. Okay, I've forgotten how to play it. How do I get rid of this? Oh, wait. All right. Obviously, I'm not any good at it. We will do my standard one, which is beef drop. Where's beef drop? Right there. All right. So we're going to go to F12. We're going to go to loader again. The reason why is I want to show you a different function that, let's say you have a multi-disc game, right? And it's a game that normally you would flip it over to do the next game. And the problem is that when you have digital media, how do you flip the disc over? How do you tell it to go to the next disc? Well, with this setup, you've got a map file. So this demo, Passum in Terrace, is a 2-disc demo, and we need to be able to tell it that it needs to load the backside. So instead of loading either one of those, we go and we start map. Okay? Okay, we'll start it. And you can see it's loading up, right? Insert site 2. Well, how do we do that? Okay, you go down to this disk swap button. Press it once. The LED lights up so you know you're good. Now, tell it to start. Okay. Voila. You can do map files for any type of 2-disc or multi-disc. You know, maybe it's alternate reality, or it's Cities of Gold, 7 Cities of Gold, any of these things. So I'm going to disable the boot to loader, and then I'm going to go, okay, it is Thursday the 20th of February. It's a little earlier than 1 o'clock in the morning, almost 2 o'clock, but we'll change that. This is the default for VBXE, so I'm going to leave it there. Stereo Pokey's enabled. Second Pokey interrupt request address. It's not really implemented in anything, so we're just going to leave that disabled. GTI VGate enabled. PBI BIOS. This has to be enabled in order for your hard drives to work. This is the device ID that this compact flash interface sits at. Don't change it unless you've got a real good reason. I leave these at D5. The reason I do that is because I believe that on a normal situation, D1 through D4 are going to be physical floppy drives, or there'll be an SiO2 SD or a SiO2 USB. Either way, hard drives should start at D5 or E. The same way that DOS machines or Windows starts at drive C. Why? Because the floppies were usually drive A and drive B. Same logic. I'm going to leave it there. Your config sys is going to be on drive 5, which is the boot drive. If you want to change that to something else for whatever reason, knock yourself out. For example, I know that there's a config sys file for SpartaDOS on this image here. So I could change this to D3 and it would find the config file that would work for everything and be fine. If you want to make sure that nothing gets erased, you can enable that. If you want to hot swap your compact flash cards, which you can, then you would enable this right here and press shift, and it would pull the compact flash reader and refresh the tables. Slave drive has to be enabled since you have dual. Otherwise, it's not going to function correctly with the dual interface. High-speed I/O is enabled. I have it enabled for your disks and the SiO2 PC, which is also called PC Link. Sound, you may have noticed that when it was loading off the hard drive or the compact flash, it made some noise just like it would through an SiO chain. You can change that. I like it that way. You can change it to no sound, to just SiO, to ATRs, or to the whole kit and caboodle, which is the way I like it. Okay, this is a setup. You know, it's the most recent version of the firmware. 6502C, obviously, at 1.77 megahertz. It's PAL. This is the newest version of VBXE. This is the joystick is disabled. You can enable it, which would allow you to use a joystick to navigate these menus. I disable it because a lot of times the stick pick, which is right here, which you ordered, goes there, and it will create some havoc when I'm trying to load flashing ETRs. So I just disable it. You can enable it, it's up to you. You can change the color of the screen here. It's this color. I like 8s. I send all my sheens out with 8. You change it to something else, more power to you. You know, knock yourself out. But it's going to arrive at your house with color 8. This is for the Rapidus 65816 upgrade, which you could put in this, but it requires changing the compact flash interface, and so that the Rapidus physically can fit in there. There's nothing logically that prevents it, but physically it needs a change to the interface. These are the commands that you can issue whenever you're in the BIOS. These can be entered at any screen. You may have heard me say B. L will get us to the loader. I'm going to save all this and boot. Square DOS was disabled. Let's enable it and boot. So you can see that the access lights are working. All right. What else is there to do here? Okay, well, you can, while we're at access lights, let's look at A and do a directory. And A is where this is on. Okay. And then let's do a directory B. Okay. And let's just do a power cycle. Something's kind of a little funky there. Okay. Much better. All right, let's do that again. Okay. A, and then do a directory. Okay. You can see the directory there. Let's do the same thing. Okay. You can also, if you look right here, see the SIO, TX, and RX. Okay. And so then we're going to do B, which is over there. We're going to do a directory as well. Okay. All right. Now, you may notice that the day and time is in US format. That's just the way I have the AutoExecBat set up. Doesn't make any sense, but I ship to a lot of American customers. They're used to it that way. I will show you. Let's edit E. And then add AutoExec.bat. See, this command here, set datetime equal to 1. If you just remove that, then the dates on the file stamps and everything else will go back to normal and really to the thing that makes more sense. All right, let's see here. So SIO has been checked out. The stock SIO, SIO to PC, the compact flash, both of them work. Oh, just J is okay, that's the second, the 2 gig. Oh, let's do a VBXE. So one of the reasons why I put Sparta Commander in here is because A, it's quick, and B, it demonstrates VBXE specific software. So you may notice the DVI went off. And if I'm going to change screens, AV, no output. S video, no output. TV. The reason for that is that's perfectly normal. That's what that's what the VBXE is designed to do. It's just outputting high quality video to the RGB port. This is VBXE specific. If we were to load F-Disk, it also recognizes the VBXE is in there. Okay, and then once you quit out of a VBXE specific application, it drops back to normal video. For example, with F-Disk, see? We're going to get out of this, and then back to standard video. Okay? The one thing I do want to show you is, even if you don't use VBXE, let's say for some reason you don't want to do VBXE, but you're saying, hey, but Marlon, you've got it set up so that Sparta Commander loads. If Sparta Commander is a specific VBXE file, how are you going to use it? Sparta-DOS-X has a Graphics 8 driver, which will control the screen so now you've got pretty good quality. I mean, it's not as sharp as VBXE, not by a long shot, but it doesn't shut your other screens off. Now, here's the difference. On AV, the Graphics 8 is not that readable. It's a little more readable when you get to S-Video, but really the RGB, oh, not the TV, RGB or Sophia. Okay, you can do a control quit. Really want to quit? Yes. All right, so we've checked out the keyboard obviously works, joystick works, the swap disk button works, the mouse swap button works, the compact flash drives work, we've seen the BIOS, we know that composite video works and S-Video works, we know that RGB works, and this is, again, just a standard 13-pin DIN to SCART. The one I like to use came with my PAL CCAM 7800. And keyboards, mouse. Okay, the only thing left to do is to power it off. Like I said, got my beef drop here. Labels go towards the front. See, it says cart front. That's where you want the label. Just sort of jiggle it in there a little bit. Push down. Don't push too hard. Okay, it's going to boot just like normal. Once it gets through that boot process, it's going to drop into beef drop. Okay, so it's a little beef drop time. So let's turn that off. So I think that's about it. Enjoy your machine. I will give you a printout of the different keys. There's companies that make these little stickers. Any PS2 compliant keyboard will work. And enjoy. And if you have any questions, just give me a call or drop me an email. Enjoy. Oh, you had purchased a pick stick kit. I just had some already made, so I'm just going to send you a already made one. Okay? Enjoy.